The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's emergency room hummed like dying insects, casting a sickly glow over the chaos of a Friday night. Dr. Maya Okafor pressed her fingers against her temples, trying to ward off the headache that had been building since her double shift started 12 hours ago. At 26, she'd already lived 3 lives. Child prodigy who spoke 7 languages by age 12. Daughter of Nigerian healers whose generational knowledge had been stolen. And now, an overqualified medical translator drowning in student debt, working overnight shifts because the pay was slightly less insulting. "Maya, we need you in Trauma 3, barked Dr. Chen, not bothering to look up from her tablet. "MVA victim. Unresponsive except for some rambling we can't understand. Probably concussion, definitely confused." Maya grabbed her translation tablet and pushed through the double doors, her worn sneakers squeaking against linoleum that had seen too much blood, too many emergencies, too many people hovering between life and death. The man on the gurney made her stop breathing, not because he was handsome, though he was, even with the gash across his forehead, in blood matting his dark hair. Not because of the expensive watch on his wrist that screamed money, or the tailored shirt torn and stained, but because of what he was saying. "Ejowo, masefi misile, moni lati sofun won." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Yoruba, but not just any Yoruba. The specific dialect from her grandmother's village in Oyo State. The same dialect she'd spoken as a child before her family immigrated, before everything fell apart. What's he saying? Dr. Chen was already moving on, checking pupils, calling out vitals. Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. "He's asking us not to leave him. Says he needs to tell them something." Severe confusion, probably from the head trauma. She leaned closer, her hands automatically checking his pulse, professional instincts overriding her shock. "Sir, can you tell me your name? Oruko Reniki." His eyes, dark brown, almost black, focused on her with sudden clarity that seemed impossible for someone with his injuries. He gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "Ifemi," the word came out broken, desperate. "Ifemi sonu, wonji I." Maya felt ice flood her veins. Those words, that phrase, "The remedy is lost. They stole it. It was impossible. It had to be delirium." "He says his name is lost," Maya translated, her voice carefully neutral, even as her mind raced. "He's disoriented, Dr. Chen. Classic amnesia presentation. No ID in his wallet, no phone, nothing," reported the paramedic. "Found him 3 blocks from a car fire. Looks deliberate. Someone tried to torch the vehicle after the crash. He's lucky a jogger saw him crawl out." For the next 6 hours, Maya stayed close to Trauma 3, telling herself it was professional thoroughness, that any good translator would ensure clear communication for an amnesia patient. She absolutely wasn't researching the expensive watch brand or noting the surgery scar on his shoulder that looked military, or wondering why someone would try to kill a man who didn't know his own name. The hospital assigned him a temporary identity, John Doe, number 347. But as dawn broke and the ER quieted, Maya sat beside his bed in the observation unit, watching him sleep. His lips moved occasionally, fragments of that village dialect slipping out. Words about formulas, about theft, about the ones who took everything. The same words her grandmother had whispered before she died, broken and bitter, about the pharmaceutical company that had stolen 3 generations of healing knowledge. "You stayed." Maya jumped. His eyes were open, clearer now, but still confused, still searching. "You're the only one who understands me," he said in perfect Yoruba, the village accent thick and authentic. Everyone else sounds like noise. But your voice is, he struggled for the word. Safe. What do you remember? Maya asked gently, switching to English to test his comprehension. He responded in English, accent American, but with something underneath. I remember. Colors. Green. A lab. White coats. Someone angry. A woman crying. His jaw tightened. And danger. I remember danger. Your name. Gone. His hand reached for hers, and Maya let him take it, telling herself it was comfort for a scared patient. But I know you. Not you specifically, but your language. It's home. Wherever home is. Behind them, the morning shift nurse cleared her throat. Dr. Okafor? There's a man here asking about your John Doe. Says he's from Biogenesis Pharmaceuticals. Claims our patient is one of their executives who went missing. I think Maya's blood turned to ice. Biogenesis, the company that had stolen her family's remedies 15 years ago. The company that had patented her grandmother's malaria treatment, her aunt's fertility blend, 3 generations of carefully documented healing knowledge, and made billions while her family got nothing, while her mother worked 3 jobs to pay for the legal fees that went nowhere. The company that had destroyed everything. And this man, this beautiful, vulnerable man who only trusted her, was one of them. Maya released his hand, like it had burned her. Tell them he's resting, she said, her voice hollow. No visitors until Dr. Chen clears him neurologically. She fled to the staff bathroom, locking herself in a stall, as her carefully constructed composure shattered. The universe had delivered her enemy gift, wrapped with amnesia, and she had no idea what to do with it. Her phone buzzed. A text from her younger sister, Adaz. Mom's getting worse. New treatment isn't working. Doctor says maybe 6 months. 6 months. Her mother, who'd sacrificed everything after their remedies were stolen, who'd worked herself sick, trying to provide, was dying from an autoimmune disorder that their family's stolen formulas might have helped treat. Maya stared at her reflection in the mirror above the sink. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a tired bun. Her grandmother's silver necklace. The last thing she had from home, catching the light. A terrible, dangerous idea began to form. When Maya returned to the observation unit, a man in an expensive suit was trying to push past the nurse's station. I'm telling you, that's our VP of Research, Dr. Adrian Castellanos, the man insisted, waving a business card. He's been missing for 3 days. We've been worried sick. Adrian Castellanos. Even the name sounded like money. Sir, our patient has severe memory loss. Maya interrupted smoothly, positioning herself between the executive and the hallway leading to Adrian's room. Any stress or familiar faces could cause additional trauma. Protocol requires isolation until cognitive function stabilizes. The executive, his badge, said, Richard Brenner, Chief Operating Officer, fixed her with a calculating stare. And you are? The medical translator ensuring Dr. Castellanos receives proper care. He speaks English. He's been speaking exclusively in Yoruba since arrival, Maya said, meeting his gaze steadily. A language he apparently learned during fieldwork in Nigeria. Currently, it's the only language his damaged brain can access. It was mostly true. The best lies always were. Brenner's expression shifted. Something cold, flickering behind his corporate smile. Nigeria. How interesting. I'll need to consult with our legal team about medical privacy and company property. Company property? Maya's voice could have cut glass. Dr. Castellanos was working on highly sensitive research when he disappeared. Biogenesis has invested millions in his projects. We have a right to protect our assets. Assets. Not their missing executive. Not their colleague who'd nearly died. Assets. After Brenner left, with promises to return with lawyers and paperwork, Maya slipped back into Adrian's room. He was sitting up, looking frustrated and frightened in equal measure. "That man," Adrian said in Yoruba, his hands trembling. "When I saw him through the door, I felt fear, deep fear. Why would I be afraid of my own company?" Maya sat in the chair beside his bed, her mind calculating risks and possibilities. What if you weren't afraid of the company? What if you were afraid of what they might do? "I don't understand." You kept saying something when you arrived, about a remedy being stolen, about them taking it. She watched his face carefully. "Does that mean anything to you?" Adrian's eyes unfocused, chasing fragments of memory that refused to solidify. "There was a woman, older. She was teaching me something. Plants, herbs. She called me me?" He looked at Maya questioningly. "My child," Maya translated, her throat tight. That's how her grandmother had addressed her students, the young people she'd taught before biogenesis destroyed everything. "She gave me notebooks," Adrian continued, his voice growing urgent. "Old notebooks. Generations of knowledge. She made me promise. She made me swear I would—" His face twisted in frustration. "I can't remember what I promised." Maya's hands were shaking as she opened her phone and pulled up a photo she carried everywhere. Her grandmother, dignified and proud, standing in front of their family's healing house in Nigeria, wearing the same silver necklace Maya now wore. "Do you recognize her?" Adrian stared at the photo and stared. His breathing became rapid, shallow. "Mama Okafor," he whispered. I called her Mama Okafor. She said her granddaughter would." His eyes snapped to Maya's necklace, then to her face. She talked about you. Said you'd gone to America. Said you were brilliant. Said you'd understand if—" He stopped, swaying slightly. "If what?" Maya's voice was barely audible. "If something happened to her. If they came for the knowledge." Adrian's face was white. "She's dead, isn't she? That's why I can't remember. Because I don't want to remember what they did." The words hung between them like a blade. 3 hours later, Maya did something that would either save her family or destroy her life. She signed Adrian out of the hospital under a fake name, using credentials she'd borrowed from a doctor on vacation. She took him to her tiny apartment in Pilsen, where her sister Adaz was staying, while helping care for their mother. "Are you insane?" Adaz hissed in their kitchen, while Adrian slept on the couch, sedated from pain medication. "That's one of them, Maya. One of the people who killed Grandma's life's work. He's also the only person who might know where Grandma's original notebooks are." Maya shot back. "Think about it, Ada. Why would Biogenesis's VP of Research speak Grandma's village dialect? Why would he know her name? Why would someone try to kill him 3 days ago?" Adaz crossed her arms, her expression torn between anger and desperate hope. "You think he stole the formulas back? I think he tried to. And I think that's why they want him dead." Over the next week, Maya became Adrian's anchor to reality. She called in sick to the hospital, burned through her meager savings, and slowly, carefully, helped him piece together fragments of his stolen memory. His real name was Adrian Castellanos. That part was true. Son of a Mexican mother and Nigerian father, raised between Lagos and Chicago. He'd joined Biogenesis 5 years ago as a researcher, brilliant and idealistic, believing he was helping bring traditional remedies to people who needed them. "I didn't know," he said one evening, his voice rough with shame. They sat on Maya's fire escape, the city lights spreading below them like fallen stars. I didn't know they were stealing. I thought we had partnerships, proper agreements. Then I found the files. What files? Biogenesis has been operating in West Africa for 20 years. They send researchers, I was one of them, to document traditional medicine. But we weren't documenting. We were stealing. No compensation, no credit. Just legal technicalities and patents that locked out the original healers. He turned to face her, his eyes haunted. I found records for your grandmother. They classified her as a knowledge source. 3 generations of formulas, worth an estimated $800 million in current patents. She received nothing. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but didn't bother wiping them away. She died, thinking she'd failed us. Failed everyone she'd taught. She taught me, Adrian said softly. 2 years ago, I was in Oyo doing research. The word dripped with bitterness. She saw through me immediately, called me out, said I was a thief with a good heart, but a weak spine. Despite everything, Maya found herself almost smiling. That sounds like her. She made me a deal, Adrian continued. She'd teach me properly, the real knowledge, not the sanitized version for corporate patents. But in exchange, I had to promise to stop biogenesis. She gave me her original notebooks, the ones with formulas they never found, including, he paused, something like fear crossing his face, including a treatment for autoimmune disorders, something about balancing inflammatory responses using a specific combination of herbs that only grow in one region. Maya grabbed his arm. My mother. She's dying from lupus. The medications aren't working anymore. I know. Your grandmother told me about your mother, about your whole family. She said if I ever met you. Adrian's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said, you'd be the only one who could help me finish what she started, which is destroying biogenesis from the inside and releasing all the stolen knowledge back to the communities they took it from. The plan was insane and brilliant and possibly fatal. Adrian had hidden your grandmother's notebooks in a safety deposit box under a false name. Inside weren't just formulas. There was evidence, emails, contracts with forged signatures, proof of coercion, intimidation, even cases where biogenesis had threatened healers who refused to cooperate. But there was a problem. Adrian's memory was returning. Yes, but with it came something else. Migraines, seizures. The neurologist Maya secretly consulted, using a fake patient profile, said the symptoms suggested microbleeding in his brain, probably from the car crash, probably fatal within months, if left untreated. Surgery could fix it, but surgery meant hospitals. Hospitals meant records. Records meant biogenesis would find him. I don't need months, Adrian said when Maya tried to convince him to get treatment. They were in her apartment, surrounded by printouts and photos she'd made from his safety deposit box contents. I need 2 weeks. Get the evidence to the right journalists, the right lawyers, the right regulatory agencies. Then they can find me. I don't care anymore. I care. Maya's voice cracked. You think I'm letting you die after everything? Why do you care? Adrian challenged, standing to face her. 2 weeks ago, you thought I was the enemy. I am the enemy, Maya. I worked for them. I helped them, even if I didn't know what I was really doing. You tried to make it right. Trying isn't enough. He was shouting now, weeks of guilt and fear spilling out. Your grandmother is dead because of my company. Your mother is dying. How many others are suffering because I was too comfortable, too naive, too... Maya kissed him. She hadn't planned it, hadn't thought about it, but suddenly Her hands were in his hair, and his arms were around her waist, and they were both trembling with something that went far beyond fear or anger. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered. "The worst," Maya agreed. "Your family would hate me if they knew. My sister already suspects I'm losing my mind. I'm dying, Maya. Even if we pull this off, even if we destroy biogenesis, I'm dying. Then we'd better make the time count." They made love that night, desperate and tender, two people carrying impossible burdens, finding momentary peace in each other's bodies. Maya traced the scars on his shoulder, the one she'd noticed in the hospital, and he told her about the car crash, how someone had forced him off the road, how he'd barely escaped before the explosion. "They want me dead," he said into the darkness of her bedroom. "Biogenesis has invested millions in my research. But more than that, I know things. I know how they operate, where the bodies are buried, metaphorically and maybe literally. Then we expose them before they can silence you." The next morning, Maya woke to find Adrian having a seizure on her floor. Adais called 911 while Maya tried to keep him from hurting himself, her medical training kicking in even as terror threatened to paralyze her. By the time the paramedics arrived, Adrian was conscious but disoriented, slipping back into Yoruba, calling for Mama Okafor, begging someone not to take the notebooks. At the hospital, a different one, using fake IDs Maya had spent 2 days creating. The doctor's verdict was grim. "The bleeding is worse than we thought. He needs surgery within 72 hours, or the next seizure could kill him." Maya sat in the hallway outside Adrian's room, her grandmother's necklace clutched in her fist, trying to figure out how to save a man who'd been sent to her like some twisted form of redemption. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Miss Okafor, or may I call you Maya? This is Richard Brenner from Biogenesis. I think it's time we had a conversation about Dr. Castellanos' medical needs and your family's unfortunate history with our company." The line went dead before Maya could respond. They'd found her. When Maya entered Adrian's hospital room, there were 2 men in suits standing by his bed. Not police. Worse, corporate security. "Dr. Castellanos has been under significant stress," one of them said, his tone friendly, but his eyes cold. "We're here to escort him to a private facility where he can receive appropriate care." "He's my patient," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. "And you're a medical translator who falsified hospital records, used fraudulent credentials, and kidnapped a biogenesis executive." The man smiled. "We've been very patient, Miss Okafor. But patience has limits." Adrian tried to sit up, his face pale. She didn't do anything." "Actually, she did quite a lot," said a new voice. Richard Brenner entered the room like he owned it, which, Maya realized, he probably did. Biogenesis was a major donor to Chicago Memorial. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," Brenner said, addressing Maya directly. "Stubborn, refused very generous compensation packages, refused to understand that traditional knowledge needs corporate structure to reach people who need it. You stole from her," Maya said flatly. "We preserved knowledge that would have died with her generation. We made it accessible, scalable, profitable." Brenner's expression didn't change. "And now, Dr. Castellanos has stolen proprietary research funded by millions of biogenesis dollars, and hidden it with your help." "Proprietary?" Adrian's laugh was bitter. "You mean the notebooks I received as a gift from a woman you exploited? A woman who had no legal right to intellectual property that predated modern patent law?" Brenner countered smoothly. The formulas biogenesis developed are ours, regardless of their inspirational sources. Here's what's going to happen, Brenner continued. Dr. Castellanos will return to biogenesis. He'll receive the medical treatment he needs at our private facility. And he'll remember that he signed non-disclosure agreements, non-compete clauses, and loyalty contracts worth tens of millions of dollars. He turned to Maya. As for you, Ms. Okafor, we're prepared to be generous. Your mother's medical expenses, your student loans, a position in our translation department at 3 times what you currently make. All you need to do is forget this unfortunate episode. And the notebooks? Maya asked. The evidence of what you've done will be returned to biogenesis, where they'll be properly secured. Properly buried, you mean? Brenner's smile never wavered. I prefer to think of it as proper stewardship of valuable intellectual property. Maya looked at Adrian, who was watching her with an expression that broke her heart. He was telling her to take the deal, to save herself and her mother. He'd already decided to sacrifice himself, but he hadn't met her grandmother, hadn't spent years watching a brilliant woman die bitter and broken, hadn't promised a 10-year-old girl that someday, somehow, they'd make the thieves pay. No, Maya said. What happened next occurred in a blur of motion and desperation. Maya grabbed Adrian's arm, yanking him from the bed, even as the security guards moved to stop her. She'd spent the last week memorizing this hospital's layout, knowing this moment might come. Code Gray, she shouted, the signal for a security threat, causing immediate chaos in the hallway. She and Adrian ran through the psych ward, the only floor without security cameras due to patient privacy laws, down the service elevator, past the loading dock where her sister was waiting with their mother's old car, engine running. Go! Adez shouted as they tumbled into the back seat. I alerted the press. They're meeting us at the courthouse in 30 minutes. The courthouse? Adrian was struggling to stay conscious. His head wound reopening. Can't expose them if we're dead or disappeared, Maya said grimly, pressing gauze to his forehead. We need to file everything publicly, on record, before they can stop us. Behind them, biogenesis security poured from the hospital. The chase through Chicago was something out of a movie Maya never wanted to star in. Adez drove like she'd trained for getaway driving, weaving through traffic while Maya held Adrian and tried to keep him from bleeding out in the back seat. The notebooks, Adrian mumbled. Safety deposit, Bank of America on State Street, Box 2, 847. Password is, Mama Okafor taught me. We're not going to the bank, Maya said. We already have everything we need. Adrian's eyes widened as he realized what she'd done. 3 days ago, while he slept, Maya had gone to that bank, used the information he'd mumbled during fever dreams, photographed every single page of every notebook, every piece of evidence, and sent it to 15 different lawyers, journalists, and regulatory agencies with instructions to release everything if she didn't check in every 12 hours. You used me, Adrian said, but he was smiling. I saved you, Maya corrected. Big difference. The Cook County Courthouse steps were packed with cameras when they arrived. Adaz had done her job well. Every major news outlet in Chicago was present. So was Biogenesis Security, and Richard Brenner, and a team of lawyers that probably cost more than Maya's entire life savings. But they were too late. Maya stood on those courthouse steps, her grandmother's necklace catching the afternoon sun, and told the truth about Biogenesis's 20-year pattern of biopiracy, about communities robbed of generational knowledge, about profits built on exploitation, about her grandmother, who'd trusted the wrong company and paid with her life's work, and about Adrian Castellanos, the researcher who'd risked everything to make it right. The evidence spoke for itself. Forged signatures, coerced agreements, emails discussing acquisition strategies for traditional healers who didn't understand intellectual property law. Photos of researchers, including Adrian, posing with elderly healers who had no idea their knowledge was being stolen. It was damning, comprehensive, undeniable. Dr. Castellanos has been suffering from severe mental impairment. Brenner tried to interject, his composure finally cracking. His actions were not those of a man in his right mind, which is why he arranged dead man's switches. Maya interrupted, her voice carrying across the courthouse steps. If anything happens to him or my family, additional evidence gets released, including the names of every executive who knew about the biopiracy, every board member who approved it, every lawyer who covered it up. You're bluffing, Brenner said, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Try me. The aftermath was messy, complicated, and took 9 months to fully unfold. Biogenesis stock crashed within hours of the revelation. Federal investigators opened multiple inquiries. A class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of hundreds of West African communities. Adrian went into surgery 4 days after the courthouse press conference, funded by a legal defense fund that raised $3 million in 48 hours. The surgery was successful. The recovery was long. Maya's mother received treatment, a combination of traditional formulas from the recovered notebooks and modern medical intervention. She didn't go into full remission, but she got stronger, started attending a Dazie's college graduation, started talking about the future again. Richard Brenner and 6 other executives were indicted on fraud charges. Biogenesis dissolved in bankruptcy, its assets sold to pay settlements, and the notebooks, those precious, stolen, recovered notebooks, were digitized and released under Creative Commons licensing, free for everyone, the way Mama Okafor had wanted all along. On a warm evening in late summer, Maya stood in the kitchen of a small house she'd bought with settlement money, teaching her niece how to prepare her grandmother's fever remedy. Adrian sat at the kitchen table, still recovering but alive, translating the formulas into multiple languages for a database they were building, a repository of traditional knowledge, properly attributed, freely shared. Your grandmother would be proud, he said, watching Maya work with the same careful precision Mama Okafor had taught generations of students. She'd probably call us both fools, Maya replied, but she was smiling, throwing away perfectly good revenge for something as naive as justice. Is that what we did? Maya moved to stand behind him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders, pressing her cheek against his hair. No, we did something better. What's that? We remembered, and we made sure no one can forget. Through the kitchen window, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of gold and amber. In the living room, a daze was arguing with someone on speakerphone. Another journalist wanting an interview. Another lawyer planning strategy for the ongoing cases. Adrian's hand found Maya's, their fingers interlacing with the easy comfort of 2 people who'd walked through fire together and somehow made it out the other side. I love you, he said quietly. Not for the first time, but still with the wonder of someone who hadn't expected to survive long enough to say it. I know, Maya replied. You told my grandmother you'd protect her legacy. Turns out her legacy was me. Turns out her legacy, Adrian corrected, turning to pull Maya into his lap, is every person who'll be healed because we refused to let them erase her. They kissed as the sun set over Chicago, two people who'd found each other through tragedy and revenge and impossible circumstances, and somehow built something like redemption from the wreckage. Behind them, on the refrigerator, was a photo Maya had found in her grandmother's belongings. Mama Okafor standing in her healing house, hands on her hips, expression stern, but eyes twinkling with mischief. Written on the back in her handwriting, "For Maya, when she finds her spine and her purpose, both will arrive together. Both will arrive through someone unexpected. Don't be stubborn like your grandmother. Say yes when love asks."